Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka, and Bitcoin and the whole industry bleeding red again for another day. Maybe this is going to happen until April 2nd, the new tariffs that come into effect. We'll see what happens. On today's show, Toulouse in France to start to accept crypto for public transport, baby. 1 in 4 S&P 500 firms will hold Bitcoin by 2030, it says the Crypto Advisory. Also, investor Dan Tapiero predicts Bitcoin rally. He says new liquidity and lower rates are needed, which we already talked about, and they are coming up. We're going to go through some Bitcoin Market Watch technical analysis, all this and so much more on today's show. Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. Today is March 30th, last day of the month, 2025, and Bitcoin in the red. First, I want to say that my usual images that I create have turned a little more realistic because I've been using ChatGPT. On the show in the past, we've compared Grok to ChatGPT to other AIs as well. And although Grok seemed to make better images, I preferred the fantasy style images that ChatGPT creates. And that's what I've basically been creating my daily images in, my little graphic work. And it seems like with the latest update, ChatGPT now wants to make things more realistic because Grok was really the leader in images. They were more realistic, but to me, I really enjoyed the fantasy style that Grok was putting together. Anyway, they've gone with more realistic pictures, and so the same script that I used to use previously to make these cool pictures now has come out with, a little more risque, realistic, porn-style picture. Anyway, I'll figure out. I haven't had time to come up with a different script. I've been pretty much using the same prompt for a long time. So I'm going to have to put some changes in there so it's not as risque, so there's not, ass in your face the way there is on today's show. Ladies, hopefully you don't get offended. This is not a real woman on the image. This is all, ChatGPT generated AI images. Very damn realistic. So I'm going to have to figure out this way, kind of toning it down a bit with that. Just thought I'd bring that up. Let's get right into our Market Watch and Bitcoin technical analysis. We have the Bitty down about 2% right now at $82,000. Ethereum down 2% as well, $18.15. Solana, 126 bucks, sitting pretty much even at this time. XRP down 3%, $2.10. Doge down 3%, 16.5 cents. Taking a big hit. And I don't know if we've seen the end of it until, Tuesday. Getting into our crypto bubbles, if we zoom out or if we zoom in to the hourly, pretty much everything's in the green. But for the day, we'll see that 80% in the red for today. The only things in the green are Form and Toncoin. Even Move, that seems to be making a move every day on the positive, and also Chronos, also in the red. Zooming out to the weekly, we also see about 80% in the red for the week. And for the month, we're going to see a lot of blood red, everything down about 90%. not down 90%. 90% of the coins are in the red. Just a few in the green for the month. The same coins I just noted. Chronos, Toncoin, everything else is pretty much down between 15 and even 40% for the month. So needless to say, we've talked about this before, this is a very good buy the dip opportunity. Prices are in some cases at 1 year lows, and I do anticipate once all this tariff talk is kind of figured out, prices will pump. It's also a little suspect, because I feel like at this point in the Bitcoin 4-year cycle, the prices would have been much higher already. So I'm thinking with all these new players, i.e., the U.S. government, the Saudis, the Abu Dhabi, so many countries around the world adopting. I think it's up to 27 countries around the world that have said that they're going to be buying the biddy. And of course, they want to buy it at a cheap price, right? So I feel like that has something to do with the price, we'll call it manipulation. And once we see the states at least come out and say, oh yeah, by the way, we bought, 500,000 Bitcoin, then when they've done their thing, and when other countries have done their thing, and when maybe BlackRock has finished buying, maybe at that point we're going to see the pump. So it seems to be a little delayed compared to other years for sure. Current crypto market cap for Bitcoin is $1.6 trillion, Ethereum at $218 billion, XRP $122 billion, Solana $64 billion, Doge $24 billion, Cardano $23 billion, Tron $22 billion. The total market cap is currently sitting at $2.61 trillion, with Bitcoin holding 62% of that. Total market cap, Ethereum 8.3% of the total market cap, and XRP 4.68 of the total market cap. We're currently sitting at a 34 in fear in our crypto fear and greed index. Yesterday was 32, and last week was a 45 in neutral. There are approximately 1,109 days left until the next Bitcoin halving in 2028, with 159,817 blocks left to mine. Getting into our assets by market cap globally, we've got gold very close to that 21 trillion. They just crossed 20 million not long ago, trillion. And now they are at $20,982 billion. Apple at $3.2 trillion. Microsoft $2.8 trillion. Nvidia $2.6 trillion. Amazon $2 trillion. Silver $1.9 trillion. Google $1.89 trillion. Saudi Aramco $1.7 trillion. Bitcoin number 9 position, $1.624 trillion, and Facebook at $1.46 trillion. You can currently get 1,221 Satoshis for one fiat US dollar. The current US national debt is sitting at $36,663 billion. That equals to $107,211 per U.S. taxpayer, or $323,048 per. That's per the taxpayer. The 107 is per U.S. citizen. So the big debt keeps on rolling for the U.S., and it's going to just keep getting bigger and bigger the way I see it. And really the way everybody sees it, they're going to have to start printing money. We've already talked about the M2 money supply. Let's actually go back to it and see if anything's changed there. Let's refresh these screens, get a decent look. And this is the ISM manufacturing, and we're still down there. And historically, once we get back about this range, which will happen because a lot of manufacturing is supposed to be coming back to the States with all this, world exclusion and tariffs, and we're closing ourselves off to the rest of the world, and we're doing everything here. Once that happens, as you see in 2020, we were in a big dip, and it definitely went up quite a bit, and the Bitcoin also went up, ironically. And if we see here a similar kind of trend in 2017, the halving before that. Getting into the M2 money supply, let's take a peek at that. Change our grid, and in a 1 year, I guess we see that it's picking up a little bit. The big mark here was in 2020, and you see that after that, this also corresponded with the big price hike in Bitcoin, right? So once we see this M2 money supply rise, which is going to happen this year, folks, we've got Europe's already said they're printing 1 trillion new euros. China, their real estate markets crashed, and the interest rates are at a 1 year low, they're at 1%, multi-year low. So they only have one choice, and that is to print more money. So that's definitely going to be happening soon. And then in the States, for them to bring all this manufacturing back home the way they're talking, they're going to need a lot of money to do it. How are they going to get this money? And they're going to print it. So, this has a lot to do with what's happening. Let's get into the actual printing of the money. We've talked about this before in 1966 when this chart starts. The total U.S. national debt, $321,000. The current U.S. national debt, $36.5 trillion. But if we simply go back to 2020, thank you, Biden. Look. Right there is when the money printer really started to print. 23 trillion at that point, and since then we've gone up $13 trillion in 4 years. So in all those years before that, we're talking 50 years it took to get to 23 trillion, and then 4 years it took to get to 36 trillion. So just unbelievable what's going on with the U.S. debt. There are definitely good things happening around the world with the Biddy, however. We have news almost every day coming out about more Bitcoin adoption. This is kind of cool and interesting news. Basic adoption in Toulouse, France. Residents can now pay for their metro, tram, subway, streetcar, and bus tickets with Bitcoin and other cryptos. Now, this is progress, folks. I mean, it seems small, but this is kind of how things were envisioned, right? In fact, starting on March 17th, so this is already happening, Toulouse became the first European city where crypto can legally be spent on public transport. Probably their cool-looking train there. The move comes as France actively seeks to deploy various crypto-friendly services. It is reported that Cannes, city there, is also working on a payment system that will accept crypto from residents. Tessio, a Toulouse public transport operator, launched its solution first. The tickets can be bought via an Android-based mobile app for Bitcoin or one of 70 altcoins. The crypto is instantly converted to euros. Binance Pay is among the supported payment options. According to the deputy mayor of Toulouse, the initiative is experimental as the company wants to check how widespread the use of crypto can become in the long run. The press release emphasizes that Toulouse administration is interested in the long-term prospects of cryptocurrency integration. It's worth noting that Paris-based Lizzie Development, the crypto payment infrastructure for Tessio, This white label fintech company actively supports other businesses, including pharmacies, co-working spaces, and restaurants, except crypto payments. So all of those businesses under their envelope already, it seems, including businesses, pharmacies, co-working spaces, restaurants, they already accept crypto. Some of the Bitcoin maxis have already expressed discontent over the fact that the service involves an intermediary of Binance, as they disapprove of the use of any middleman or altcoins. Advocates of the move by Tapiero argue that having Binance involved was important to ensure the speedy execution of transactions. A more serious hurdle is the necessity to declare crypto transactions via tax form 3918. Yeah, we've talked about this crap. Like, you literally have to, if you spend $2, you have to, incur 30% capital gains, or depending on where you live. Time will tell how easy it is. Regulators will likely have to adjust the rules to make crypto payments easier. The stats indicating how many people use the new payment avenue are unavailable as of press time. Crypto in France. France is one of the countries that adopted general crypto regulations in 2020 and making cryptocurrency storage and transactions legal and inspectable as France complies with the AML rules. The press release dedicated to the crypto implementation in Toulouse mentions that cryptocurrency is becoming more popular among the French. The 2024 report by Gemini indicates that around 80% of French citizens hold crypto. Tissio's adoption of crypto payments for the city transit was made in anticipation of further growth in the number of crypto owners. While the new initiative can attract more people's interest in owning crypto, it may also create a robust infrastructure where people can use crypto for daily purchases once the share of crypto holders becomes critical. Bitcoin cities. Although Toulouse became the first European city to let residents use crypto to pay for public transport, several other countries boast various services that can be paid for in crypto. We all know about Switzerland, so they have details here. Perfect. Argentina. In 2019, Argentina allowed its citizens to top up the SUB cards used in around 60 cities to pay for public transport with crypto. United Arab Emirates. Dubai is arguably one of the first so-called Bitcoin cities that come to mind when considering places to spend Bitcoins. Although Bitcoin is not registered as a legal tender in the UAE, it can be spent there in hotels, malls, and restaurants. It is possible to rent a vehicle or book a flight using Bitcoin. Real estate purchases are also possible via crypto in Dubai. Those who don't feel confident using online crypto exchanges may use one of the city's crypto ATMs. Switzerland. Another notable example of the city Zug, dubbed Crypto Valley. The city hosts the same crypto conference, while Switzerland itself is well known for cryptocurrency hub. Zug allowed its residents to pay in Bitcoin for several services, including their taxes back in 2016. I believe Lucerne in Switzerland also allows that. China, Hong Kong, considered a special administrative region, is another place where people can pay for dinner with Bitcoin. Immigrants can also use Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other digital assets as proof of wealth when visiting Hong Kong. There's a lot more examples than that, which of course aren't really written in here, but there's lots of places around the world that are now accepting the Bitty. So pretty interesting, and it's just going to get more and more and more adoption. So good times ahead for Bitcoin, and good current times, except for the downturn in the market. But I strongly feel that this is a good buy the tip opportunity. The whales seem to have been accumulating more and more Bitcoin, and so, for small timers like us, maybe we should follow what the smart money's doing and buy some crypto ourselves. Big firms, it seems, are also going to be starting to buy the Bitty. 1 in 4 S&P 500 firms will hold Bitcoin by 2030. says the Crypto Advisory. Treasury managers would feel pressured to try a Bitcoin strategy for fear of repercussions if they missed out on potential gains. Yeah, for sure. Around a quarter of firms listed on the S&P would have invested in Bitcoin by 2030, with treasury managers fearing they could lose their jobs if they missed out on potential gains in Bitcoin. A partner at a tech-focused financial advisory firm said. Makes sense. I anticipate that by 2030, a quarter of S&P 500 companies will have BTC somewhere on their balance sheet as long-term assets. A partner at Elliot Chun, a partner at Architect Partners, said in a March 28th blog. Chun said this swift will be driven by treasury managers feeling compelled to at least experiment with Bitcoin. If you tried it and it worked, you're a genius. If you tried it and it didn't work, you at least tried. But if you didn't try and have no good reason, your job may be at risk. MicroStrategy, is the largest corporate holder of Bitcoin. Of all the 89 public traded firms that currently have Bitcoin on the balance sheet, according to data from BitcoinTreasury.net. So suddenly there was only MicroStrategy. Suddenly there's 90 companies holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So pretty interesting. One more firm could be added to the list after GameStop's 1.3 billion convertible notes offering on March 26th, which the firm intends to buy its first batch of Bitcoin. Yeah. Tesla and Block are the only S&P 500 listed firms that hold Bitcoin, meaning at least another 123 S&P firms would need to invest in Bitcoin by 2030 for Chun's prediction to be correct. Yeah, it makes sense. Tech investors and execs expect Bitcoin to keep rising. Bitcoin could soar to $500 to $1 million in range, even higher by 2030, according to the likes of ARK Invest, Cathie Wood, Galaxy Digital CEO Mike Novogratz, Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong, and Block CEO Jack Dorsey. Meanwhile, firms adopting Bitcoin treasury strategies have seen a positive impact on their share price. Strategy, whose stock has surged over 2,000% since its first Bitcoin investment in August 2020, massively outperformed Bitcoin 781% and the S&P 500 64% over that stretch. So it's inevitable. A quarter of the companies owning Bitcoin somehow on their balance sheet actually doesn't even seem like enough. I feel like there's going to be more than that. Maybe half the companies are going to have Bitcoin on the balance sheet by that time. Because what he is correct about is if they don't put it on the balance sheet and, Bitcoin goes to $1 million, then the shareholders in the company are going to be like, what the fuck? Why didn't you buy Bitcoin? You had the opportunity. Even a small amount makes sense, right? At least it's the FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. They cannot just completely miss the boat on it. If they do, this is the biggest loss of all for these money managers. There's definitely always more good news with the Biddy. We have investor Dan Tapiero predicts that Bitcoin rallies. He says new liquidity and lower rates needed. Yeah, the liquidity is what we were talking about earlier with the money printing. So that's going to bring in new liquidity. Also, lower rates will bring in new liquidity as well. Basically, liquidity means more money in the system, effectively, right? People have more money, then people are going to buy more extravagant things, buy things that maybe they wouldn't have if things are tightening and everybody's pocketbook is tight and, you can't spend extra money. Maybe you're not going to buy any Bitcoin. You're not going to take a chance on some shit coinery and, buy some whatever Pepe in hopes that it goes up 10,000%. But if there's lots of money in the system and there's low interest rates, then that generally is good for risk on assets like Bitcoin and like the stock markets, traditional financial systems. Investor venture capitalist Dan Tapiero says Bitcoin rallies are around the corner again amid what he thinks is an alignment of several bullish macro factors. Citing a recession probability indicator from the market analysis from Bravo's research, Tapiero says that the Federal Reserve will likely add new liquidity and lower interest rates in order to stimulate the economy. According to the investor, the loose monetary environment will trigger the new Bitcoin rallies. Unlikely recession coming given Fed has room to cut interest rates. 400 basis points possible to 0 if needed. Yeah, right. Interest rates are currently at, I think, 4.5. So they could go a long way if needed, all the way to 0 like it was at some point. But this indicator has never been higher and a recession not followed. Slowing growth ahead clear, guaranteed by fiscal tightening. Rates must drop, liquidity needed. BTC. Yeah, I was reading the other day, probability of reception, I think we had it on our show, is now at 40% in 2025. So here is the probability of reception calculated from the yield curve, and it's about as high as it's ever been right now. Yeah. Booming back in mid 1980, 1982, 84 was the only time that was higher than this. According to Tapiero, the stock market is in for another 10% drop or so before the Federal Reserve cuts rates, regardless of coincidental data. In a recent interview with crypto personality Scott Melker, Tapiero forecasted a 180,000 price tag for Bitcoin. On when Bitcoin could reach the massive price target, Tapiero says, I know some people have been more aggressive, but I think this bull phase, we can hit that 180,000 this year, potentially early next year, but I'm thinking more this year. So it's just the way markets work, right? You got 85% or 90% bulls up at 100,000, and now you're down at, 15%, and people are disponent, they think the world is over, and yet it's at 80,000, right? Which is still up, 2 to 3% from 18 months ago. It's pretty incredible. At the time of writing, a Bitcoin is at $82,500. So he's absolutely right. Everybody, this is what they do, right? It's the end of the world. Bitcoin's over. And meanwhile, Bitcoin is at $90,000 or $81,000. So, if you told people a year and a half, 2 years ago, Bitcoin's going to hit 100 grand early January, they would have been, non-believers. It would have been such a fantastic, beautiful thing. And now instead, it hits 100 grand and then flips back down to mid 80s, and it's the end of Bitcoin, right? So don't listen to these folks. These are just the sheep that follow the herder, and they'll say and do whatever the herder does and says, and follow and follow and follow, and never have their own insight. And a lot of these people who are making these things up, guys, I know they're seasoned analysts, but it turns out these seasoned analysts, both in crypto and at your local bank, have no fucking idea what they're talking about. So, keep that in mind. Do your own research. There's lots of money out there. There is $900 trillion in assets worldwide. So there's lots of money. Get out there, get your share of it, buy the dip. Money is abundant. What's not abundant is time. So spend your time wisely, spend your time learning, spend your time doing the things you love. If you start suddenly making more money, start saving more money. Always be in the positive if you can. So if, you should really spend less money than what you earn, you'll always stay in the green in that way. Just basic economics, guys. There's a whole bunch of books that I have listed in the show description. If you have some time, they're all free. You don't have to pay for anything. Listen to it in the car. That's what I do with my books. So it's much easier. And that way you're doing two things at once. And it goes back to this, time is what's scarce, because it is, right? Save more money than what you earn. Start saving today once again. And if you're young, in your teens or in your 20s, start saving immediately. Ideally, you can retire when you're 40 or 45. If you have a great idea, maybe this is where you're going to make your millions. Start your idea today. Even if you're not ready, start today, and things will slowly come together for you, for sure. And even if they don't come together and your plan fails, well, at least you have the satisfaction that you at least tried. Without doing it, you'll never know if it actually works. And without doing the thing, you'll maybe always live in regret that you never did this thing. You never took your idea and went with it. Here at CryptoNews Global, you're not only watching and listening to CryptoNews Global, folks, you are CryptoNews Global. So please help me in my effort to get to over 1,000 subscribers this year. It would be greatly appreciated. I will definitely continue to try and bring the latest news and crypto analysis to everybody. If you found this stream enjoyable, please share, like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next stream, folks. Thanks so much for joining.